right, guys, what's going on here? It's Crazy Kevin, and I'm here with Crazy Tim Credeur. How we doing?
Dude, what's up, dude? Representing the nicknames.
Dude, I love it. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I love it. We each got the same thing going on. Now, Tim, talk to us a little bit about how life's been going and what you've been up to.
Man, life's great. I have some, I'm into some other businesses now. I mean, obviously, we still have our gym, Gladiators Academy, and Bayou Fighting Championships, but I'm also a big part of the Serve Pro organization in South Louisiana. It's a business I got into around COVID, and I'm a part owner and run one of the Serve Pros in Biloxi, and I'm also heavily involved in the ones in Baton Rouge. So I have a degree in business. I've been, working in businesses as a businessman since forever. A lot of people don't know that, but I was always, when I got out of the military, I worked full time and I went to school full time in a variety of industries. There was some time there where my only business was Gladiators for a while, but I diversified maybe 5 years ago, and it's been absolutely incredible. It's kind of like fighting, actually. We respond to heavy catastrophes, fire, water, mold, hurricane damage, fire damage, and I show up in some of the worst situations you can imagine. And, it's awesome for me. Like, I love it. There's a lot of correlation between fighting. You show up in these crazy scenarios and you got to figure it out on the fly, and people are relying on you. So I'm really good in pressure situations. I'm kind of a nutcase in the first place, but I'm pretty good under pressure, and I'm pretty good with major catastrophes where I don't really have the answer. No one has the answer, and I got to figure it out. So, yeah, I love my industry. I love this business. It's incredible. I'll probably do it for the rest of my life. So I do a lot of that. And then other than working, Bayou Fighting Championships, Gladiators Academy, Serve Pro, all I really do other than that is raise my children and spend time with my wife. I spent a lot of years traveling all over the world and, with fighting and the military. And, now my wife's big dream is to, for us to build a family. And so that's a lot of my life, is raising children. They're incredible. My 3 kids are unbelievable. And I have a storybook life I don't deserve. And so that's a lot of what I do. That's about it.
Oh, yeah, no, that's awesome. You got a lot.
I don't do anything else, fighting, fighters, jiu-jitsu, Serve Pro, kids. That's it.
Yeah, man. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, a little bit with Bayou Fighting Championship. I interviewed Drake Pellegrin. He sounds like an awesome kid. He's got a lot of potential. Talk to us a little bit more about that fight card that's coming up May 25th.
Yeah, man. It's like we're putting on some heavy cards now. We got 5 pro fights. Drake's an interesting story. I met Drake. He was a child, actually, when I first met Drake. And I mean like a child. Like a little kid. I was his instructor, Derek Bro, out in Homa, who is a amazing friend of mine. We've been friends for years. I think he was the first affiliate school I ever had in my life, out in Homa, Louisiana. And Drake was just a kid in the kids program, and I'm pretty sure I was fighting in the UFC at the time. And I don't know, man. He always just had like a quiet intensity, just kind of like. He just wanted to do it. It was him and this other kid, Chance Bro, who's an amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner today, runs his own school, Cajun Combat, out in Metairie, out in New Orleans. And they were just every time I do a seminar, those 2 kids were there trying to learn whatever they could, do whatever they could, and their parents were very supportive. And that's just always been something that Drake wanted to do. And he, there's a line in MMA and in all sports, I believe. But as a coach, I've been coaching athletes, I don't know, man, since UFC 30 or something. I don't know, a long time. And we find a lot of talented guys in MMA. There's a lot of talent, and then there's guys who, they aren't that talented. They just work their ass off. I was kind of more of that. I really wasn't that athletically gifted. I wasn't like this phenomenal athlete. I didn't wrestle. I wasn't even that good at wrestling at the Y as a kid, So I wasn't like this great athlete. I just wanted to do it, and I just worked my ass off. And I, found a way to make myself a mid-tier MMA fighter. I think I was ranked in the top 15 or top 12 at some point in my career. And that was out of sheer willpower. Minimal athleticism, minimal gifts. My gifts are not really the gifts you want in MMA. My gifts are really tough, which sucks. My gifts are kind of smart. My gifts are don't quit when shit goes terrible and ekes out a way to win after getting beat up for 12 minutes. That's kind of some of the gifts I'm good at. Jiu-jitsu, maybe. Trailer park street fighting. But it's pretty rare that you find someone who has both of those things. Like they're very athletically gifted and they have really some talent in the athletic department. I really don't like the word talent. I don't know if you know where that word comes from, but I talk about this word talent a lot. Talent's bullshit, really. Talent comes from, and I've heard different explanations about this, but this was one theory of the word talent. Talons were actually a type of money used in old world Greece. And I'm talking like back when there were like those oracles on the mountain, like the oracle at Delphi and other oracles, which oracles were essentially filthy, disgusting old men who you brought your young virgins to, and they gave them a ton of drugs and alcohol, and then read your future based on their dancing.
Huh.
Sounds insane.
Yeah.
Sounds insane. Sounds like Catholicism. And I'm Catholic. But it's insane. And so what mothers would do is when the babies were born, they would bring their babies to the oracle, and you would give the oracle some talons, and the oracle would predict what your child's gifts were going to be, what their talents were going to be, Right. And so if you think about that in a real context, like you're bringing your child to a crazy pervert on a mountain drugging kids, giving him some cash, and then he's going to tell you what your kid's going to get good at. What are we talking about? That's insanity. It's insane that is even a thing. The truth is talent's bullshit. It's not real. There isn't really talent. Now, there are people who are more or less talented. Like, I'll give you an example. When I first started Gladiators Academy, I kind of went recruit Dustin Poirier and Eric Scallion, and they were training at another gym now with this guy, Harry, who is a good friend of mine today. And I feel terrible. Like at the time I needed some training partners, and I went kind of like, hey, Dustin, can you guys come train with me? And they did, and they kind of left Harry's gym, and it's been a thing. But I hate to say that, but like I needed some training partners, and these two kids kind of could help beat me up. And so I hate to say that though, but Harry's awesome. And really they were training with Harry first before me. And then I was fighting in the UFC, and I didn't want to move to Vegas because I was living in Vegas with Forrest, and it kind of sucked. And so I wanted to be back by my wife in Louisiana. So these kids started training with me. And at the same time that Dustin started training with this other kid, Albert Steinbach, who at the same time had more fights than Dustin. Right at the beginning, when they first started training with me, skill-wise and like talent-wise, Albert was a little bit better than Dustin. Like, I don't want to say more athletically gifted because that's probably not true, but he knew more. He had been grappling a little longer. I think he had a little more MMA fights at the time. And he was like, if you watched him train right at the beginning, Albert was a little bit more polished than Dustin was. And Dustin was coming from a place where he didn't have a lot of coaching. So they were kind of at the same level. And I would even say sometimes maybe Albert was a little bit better. There were training sessions where I was like, wow, man, Albert's pretty good. I mean, he's even better than Dustin, But the difference was work ethic. Like every week, Dustin just got a little better. Dustin was with his wife from a very young age. They may not have been married at that time. Right at the beginning, they weren't married. I went to their wedding, and I don't think they were married right at the beginning. But he was home with his wife every night. Like, he really didn't party. Dustin's kind of a loner like me. We're both kind of weird. Like, I'm trying to go to my house. I'm not trying to go nowhere. And so Dustin kind of just stuck to his grind. He replaced windows, worked for a window company, and went to work and came to practice. And before work, we met at strength and conditioning. And then he'd go to work all day. I'd go to the gym, and then he'd come meet me at night, and he'd stay for every practice. And he did that every day. Whereas Albert kind of got mixed up with strippers and drinking too much and alcohol, drugs, and and so slowly, Dustin just kind of, and now Dustin's one of the best 155-pound fighters in the world, and Albert is a carny at a carnival. And so we make decisions, but I think when people say, oh, Dustin's just so talented, you're really taking a lot of credit away from a guy like Dustin when you say that, because what you're saying is like the magic pervert on the mountain gave him these magical skills. Like, he didn't earn them. He was given this God-given ability. It wasn't earned. And that's not true. That's not true. That's 100% lie. When Dustin says paid in full, people don't realize the depths of his work ethic, like how hard he works and trains. And really what's important about Dustin is his consistent effort. He doesn't kill himself every day or any practice, but he's going to practice every day. He's going to train every day. He's going to hit the bag every day. He's going to go to strength and conditioning every day. He doesn't miss any practice. He's on time. He's pissed if you're late. He's staying a little bit longer than everybody else. He's there a little bit before everybody else. And he does it every single day for decades. And so when you say somebody like that is talented, what you're doing is robbing them of the credit they deserve for their skill level that they have earned. They earned that. God didn't give it to them. The filthy man on the mountain at Delphi, he didn't give it to them. Nobody gave them that. And so when we say somebody's talented, I feel like it's disrespectful. That's what I mean by talent. Like, and people say that about Drake, like, golly, he's so talented. I'm like, shut up. He's not talented. He's at the gym every day. We got to lock the doors. He goes to practice every day. He does strength and conditioning. He's nuts. He loses his mind if he misses a practice, or if he gets submitted, or if he makes a mistake, or he's in the game. AJ Fletcher was like that. Dustin was like that. I was like that. Those guys, that level of work ethic, when you pair it with some athletic gifts, and everybody's got different gifts. Like I said, I'm tough and I'm kind of smart. Dustin's tough. He's really smart and really powerful. His left hand hurts and his right hand hurts just as bad. But Drake is very, very talented in terms of some athletic gifts. But he's not where he's at because of those things. He's where he's at because of his level of work ethic. The amount he puts into it. He doesn't miss practices. He doesn't miss training sessions. He, even as a professional fighter, he still goes inner jiu-jitsu tournaments, whether I tell him to or not. And he goes fight the best dudes he can find. And you know what? He loses sometimes. And you know what? He doesn't give a shit, because he knows I'm just stacking up matches, dude. I'm stacking up experience. I'm going to have a resume so long, it's going to be hard to compete with me. And really, that's the secret. I don't see that a ton in athletes. I don't always see them. And people don't want to talk about that, but mixed martial arts athletes sometimes have like a rough work ethic. They train for fights. They don't train all the time. And when you get a kid like Drake, man, kids training all the time. Every fight's different. And it's hard coming up under me because I'm a psychopath. Like, I'm an asshole. I'm going to put you in the worst situations. Like, we saw that Drake was just submitting everybody. I mean, this kid's so good on the ground. He's jumping guard in an MMA fight and then heel hooking or triangling a guy in a minute. So I'm like, well, I need him to stand up, and I need him to, to get in some Mardi Gras street sweeper fights. And so I booked him a fight with 100% striker. no grappling, you can't take him down. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, why? That's my whole shit. Like, why you taking away all my shit?
Right.
But I need you. If I can't get them to stand up, and you're not going to stand up, I'm gonna force you to stand there, and you're about to join the Louisiana Gunslingers Union, Local 337, and so prepare for battle. And so we put him up against Banks, and I mean, dude, it was I don't know if you saw that fight. I think it's on YouTube now, man. It was like 3 minutes of Mardi Gras style street fighting. And Drake knocked this kid all the way out. Very powerful, very strong, dedicated striker. And, you know, those are the kind of things that he's willing to go in there and do. A lot of guys, they're not going to do it. I'm going to tell them what to do, but they're not going to do it. Like when I tell you, you need to go into enemy territory, you need to go into somebody's house where everybody's mad at you and the mom's throwing shit at you and everybody's cussing at you and you have no support and you still need to learn to find a way to win there. That's real. You know, like UFC fighters, Americans go to Brazil and they throw shit at you and you still got to win your fight to pay your bills. So Drake's always been willing to embrace those challenges, no matter how crazy they may sound to other people. He always does what I say. And through that, he's built an incredible amateur career and he's off in an incredible pro career as well. So we're lucky to have him, but the credit goes to Drake. You know, I believe in what Theodore Roosevelt said. The credit belongs to the man in the arena. I'm just here holding a lamppost, kind of trying to light your path. The credit belongs to the man in the arena.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with you there. And, you know, I believe it was in 2017 you gave Poirier his BJJ black belt. When it comes to earning your black belts under you, how do you kind of go from one belt rank to the next? And then also, how do you earn your black belt under you?
Well, there's a variety of modalities that we model for athletes or students who are competing, you know. I would be honest, there's really two paths. And I think that's the case in all of jiu-jitsu. There is a recreational student's path where, you know, you're training for a substantial amount of time. Jiu-jitsu is one of those things that it's hard to develop jiu-jitsu in a couple months. You know, it takes years. Now, that time, the amount of time it takes in jiu-jitsu, it used to be 15 years to get a black belt, you know? Mm-hmm. And so why would it take 15 years to get a black belt? I don't know. Some people say, you know, I love Brazil, but the dissemination of knowledge and the education system in Brazil is not the greatest. So when jiu-jitsu first came to the US, the dissemination of the art of jiu-jitsu was kind of slow. It was kind of antiquated. We didn't learn a ton of stuff. You know, I went to a bunch of Carlson Gracie seminars. He probably taught like 15 moves, and he taught the same moves over and 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 over at every seminar. We didn't learn thousands of moves. We learned like 15 moves, and he learned how to do them to where when you were doing them on the other person, they thought they were dying. And do it over and over again until you crush their face, break their jaw, crush their skull, smash them to the earth, and listen to the laments of their women cry. Like, it was a different style of jiu-jitsu that they were teaching back then. But over the years, the education in America is much better. And so a lot of Americans have taken jiu-jitsu and formalized it, built curriculums and lesson plans, and disseminated that knowledge in a more constructive way. Now, that's done some good things for jiu-jitsu and it's done some bad things for jiu-jitsu. You know, one of the good things it's done is it's given students kind of a framework for what do I need to know to grow and advance, and what do I need to develop when it comes to a guard or a half guard or top or bottom or butterfly guard. What it's bad at is it's too much information. You know, back when I was doing 15 moves from Carlson Gracie, I didn't have to worry about learning 1,000 things. I just knew I needed to get really good at these couple things. And to be honest, the better you get at jiu-jitsu, the less jiu-jitsu you do. You know, you kind of start to gravitate toward the things that work really well. You don't do a million moves anymore like a blue belt. Blue belts do millions of things they saw on YouTube 30 minutes before class.
Right.
But with that dissemination of knowledge, the timeline to get your black belt started to shrink because guys in competitions, purple belts, were submitting black belts. And that started to happen at tournaments all over the country. Guys in America were better and they were training harder. You know, I think even my instructor would tell you, like, the way people train today and the way he trained when he was young are not the same thing. You know, he was training maybe 3 or 4 days a week, maybe 5 days a week, one session. There's kids nowadays training 3 or 4 sessions a day. When I was fighting the UFC, I was training 5 or 6 hours a day. Like, that was never a part of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu training like that. So those things got better faster. Now, for a recreational student, you know, we challenge you to show up at the gym. It's still going to take you, if you're recreational, 10 or 12 years, because you're going to go through each belt and there's certain things we're looking for. As a white belt, we're looking for you to show the ability to survive bad positions and to escape. As a blue belt, we're looking for you to build neutral positions like guard and half guard from top and bottom. When it comes to purple belt, we're looking for you to build more defined positions like the mount and quarter guard and lasso guard and more fringe positions. But realistically, once you're a high-level purple belt in jiu-jitsu, technically, you have enough to be a black belt. From purple belt to black belt, it's really about time and competitive development or contributions to jiu-jitsu. So what I mean by that is recreational students at the purple belt and brown belt level, you know, they start to compete a little bit and start to teach a little bit. And that teaching kind of breaks down their technique. It polishes their technique. It makes it more consistent. They become more knowledgeable about all of jiu-jitsu instead of just the parts of jiu-jitsu that work for them. They start to learn how to take jiu-jitsu and teach a child to do it, or a person with special needs, or a woman, or an elderly person. And the transmission of jiu-jitsu starts to become more of a recreational student's modus operandi. And through that process, they polish and refine their jiu-jitsu. And then they understand jiu-jitsu as a whole, not just their jiu-jitsu, which is kind of what you're good at as a purple belt. That's the recreational. The competitive student continues to improve their jiu-jitsu from the purple belt, amateur level, all the way through the professional level. And so there's a lot of jiu-jitsu students, like the representation in jiu-jitsu of a student who is a competitive black belt is the white stripe, whereas a teaching black belt is the red stripe, the red bar. And so those designations are kind of the same way we do it. Once a student gets to a high-level purple belt or a brown belt, if they're not a high-level competitor like Alex Lane, like I have a jiu-jitsu student, Alex Lane, he's a high-level jiu-jitsu competitor. And don't get me wrong, he's an incredible instructor, but he just high-leveled his way to black belt. He murdered everybody at purple belt, went to brown belt, murdered everybody at brown belt, went to black belt. He took his belt. And I did that a lot with my instructor. As a blue belt, I just beat every blue belt I could find. He gave me a purple belt. I beat everybody I could find. And then I became a brown belt. Dustin kind of did that with his competitive side, right? He was a purple belt for a long time, and he was submitting people and showing jiu-jitsu in the UFC. And it just kind of progressed from there. People don't really realize, but Dustin does jiu-jitsu a lot, like all the time. At our gyms or in Florida, he's grappling and doing jiu-jitsu every day. He's been on the mats doing jiu-jitsu since 2006, 2005. That's almost 20 years of grappling with high-level black belts at American Top Team with elite-level wrestlers. And so that time builds a certain skill level and builds a certain comfort level. Dustin is an MMA style jiu-jitsu guy, kind of like I was. I'm not really that. I love the gi. I train in the gi all the time, but I'm not really a jiu-jitsu gi. That's not my thing, right? I'm jiu-jitsu with punches. Like when people are going to hit you or when I can hit people, I like that jiu-jitsu. And Dustin's the same. Dustin's when we saw Denise Saint Denis on Dustin's back, Dustin's very comfortable in bad positions. He's been in bad positions for years. I mean, he's always in bad positions. At American Top Team, he's wrestling with like world champion black belts, Division I wrestlers. You don't really think he's in the mount on those guys, do you, in practice? Like, he's in terrible positions. His jiu-jitsu is really good at like letting you do what you want, get a little tired, then he's gonna beat you up. So Dustin's jiu-jitsu is more of an MMA based jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I think his jiu-jitsu is a lot more defensive in nature, but that's a whole side of jiu-jitsu. Like, okay, I can survive bad positions, and then I can get myself to a position where my strengths can become prevalent, my punching, my ground and pound, or I can put you in trouble with guillotines. But we've seen Dustin Darce choke people in the UFC. We've seen him triangle armbar people in the UFC. I think he prefers to just punch people in the face and knock people out. And so I think when sometimes people see that and they see like, man, he doesn't even really do as much jiu-jitsu. All he does is he wants to knock people out. Yeah, because in the UFC, you get paid more to do that.
You definitely do.
That's what people want to see.
Yep.
Dustin's making a business decision. It's not about what he can or can't do. It's the fact that he hits hard with both hands. He's a southpaw. He hits hard with his left hand. His right hook is worse. I've been hit with it. It's horrible. He's horrible with both hands. That's a great skill, especially against guys who predominantly want to grapple with him. And so his skill level he's very cerebral in the way he uses jiu-jitsu. He doesn't want to let you to any positions, but if you get to him, he's hard to submit, really hard to submit. I don't think Dustin's been submitted very few times. And I haven't submitted Dustin in years. It's like killing a bull. Like he doesn't care, you know? So his jiu-jitsu's developed over 20 years. And like I said, we do have people who go both paths, the competitive path or more of the recreational path, where their polishing of jiu-jitsu, the polishing of their jiu-jitsu doesn't necessarily happen in a competitive environment, like an Alex Lane or a Drake or a Dustin. It happens more into them sharing and transmitting jiu-jitsu and polishing the final stages of their jiu-jitsu that way.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
I'm long-winded, so I apologize.
Don't be, man. No, I love it. This is all good stuff, and definitely stuff I like to learn about too, because I've never personally done jiu-jitsu. I've only done taekwondo my whole life. So just hearing about the belt system, how you guys kind of go up the ranks, is definitely pretty interesting to me. And
this podcast is over.
What's that?
This podcast is over.
Yes, it is.
No, I'm just kidding.
But anyways, I was gonna say, I have one more thing for you. This is one question I'd like to ask is, you're on The Ultimate Fighter, man, season 7. Can you talk us a little bit about that season and a little bit of behind the scenes with it?
It was terrible.
Terrible?
I hated it. Oh,
hated it.
It's terrible. I mean, a lot of people, I know this is like a real, like a thing, like you're watching it on TV and it seems like it's so much fun, but you got to put the whole thing into context. Like at the time, I'm a 32-year-old man who had a wife and a home and, lived in a home with my wife. And then all of a sudden, you're going to put me in a house with 16 people who are trying to take my job. There's only so much food in the house. As guys lose, they're drinking. Everybody's sleeping next to each other. Dudes stink. They don't wash their training gear. They leave shit in the bathtub and the toilet's all clogged, and like it's just a nightmare. It's like being in prison, but like they're gonna pay you to fight these guys, but you're in jail. You can't watch TV. You don't have a book. You can't do nothing. So you're just like staring at these dudes, talking to them all day. Who you're gonna fight them? They're coming to take your dreams, and they're like in front of you all day. And so it's a really high anxiety, high pressure. And like I said, I'm good in those kind of situations, but I absolutely hated it. I hated being away from my wife. I hated being in a house with a bunch of dirt bags. I hated people stealing your food and like you can't eat right. And then dude shits in the hot tub. Like what? Like as a grown man with a bunch of like 18, 20, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, it's super weird. Like it's a weird scenario. But I feel like one time Dana White said, yeah, but if you can handle this environment, you can handle fighting as a mixed martial arts fighter, as a professional. And I remember hearing that and thinking, he's right. You know, it's kind of like being in the military. Like there's a lot of adversity. It's uncomfortable. It's weird. But if you can persevere and find a way to be successful and still win, you probably can do it. Like I didn't like it, but you never heard me complain on that show.
Right.
I never said shit. You thought I was having a great time.
Yeah.
And then there's guys who it crushes, you know, they're like crying every day, their kids and all that shit. And look, I didn't have kids at the time. That might've been hard for me, but I mean, I was there to do a job. I knew it was only 6 weeks. I'd been in the military. Like I can do 6 weeks standing on my head in Beirut if I have to. I don't care.
Yeah. Right.
So, but all in all, it's a terrible experience. I mean, the training's great and the people you meet's great, but it's a meat grinder, you know, it's a meat grinder. Yeah. I think the way they're doing it with like the Dana White Contender Series is much better for athletes.
Yeah, I think so too for those guys. Yeah, it's a lot easier, an opportunity, just one and done too. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
And it's just weird. Like there's a bunch of things you don't realize, you know, like you fight a guy and then you win and then you don't realize, but the scheduling of the filming, you're fighting another dude in 2 days.
Oh,
and you hadn't fought 3 weeks. And so you don't see that as,
yeah,
you know, but it works out like that sometimes. Like you fight and then you fight again and your shin's all fucked up from this one fight. And it's just, it's a meat grinder.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting point there for sure.
But in the UFC's defense, dude, they do a great job of like taking care of you. We got food, we got underwear. I mean, we got everything we asked for. They're incredible. It's just the scenario is crazy. It's like Gladiator. I mean, it's like a real like.
Right.
I'm talking shit to Matt Riddle. We're fighting in 2 days. You know, I'm talking like we're talking shit. Like he stole my eggs. I'm gonna beat your ass in 2 days, and I'm really gonna try, like on TV, like you know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
That's awesome. No, like, speaking of Matt Riddle, like I said, I definitely I met him in like 2016. We did a seminar with him. My martial arts instructor was doing a little bit of pro wrestling, so they kind of bumped into each other. And then he did a seminar with us, and yeah, he's a cool dude. So then I ended up watching The Ultimate Fighter, and then found out you, and then here we are now. So it's pretty crazy world that kind of all works out. And
yeah, dude, he's a great guy. I wish him all the success in the world. Great kid.
Yeah, man, me too. Hopefully he gets his head right. He can figure out the wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing I always like to ask everyone I bring on the show. I'm a Taekwondo instructor. I've been training for 20 years, teaching for 6. Just love what I do, man. It's a lot of fun, and I'm only 24 years old. So with that being said, with all the guys I have coming into my gym, what advice do you have to them to keep coming in the gym, keep getting better and better every single day?
So one thing I shared this the other day on my Instagram, and I think on that Gladiators Instagram, and it's you know, you have people come in and they want to do martial arts, and at the beginning they're really worried about being comfortable, and they want to be in some beginner classes where there's not a lot of pressure and they're comfortable and da 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 da. And what people need to realize is like when you decided you wanted to do martial arts, was comfort your priority?
Absolutely not.
No. Skill development was your priority. The development of skills and the attainment of knowledge so that you can create definable skill sets if you need them in a pretty terrifying scenario, right? You're training in self-defense so that if somebody tries to jack you and steal your shit in real life, you can stand up for yourself and your loved ones. That's terrifying. That's not a comfortable place to be if you ever have to use martial arts in a real life scenario. And I say that because I don't think people join martial arts to win tournaments. That's not, that happens, but it's not the reason people start martial arts. It's a thing we utilize to help people get better at martial arts, help them focus on fundamental things and help them get used to the nerves. And, you know, grappling tournaments are great for you to learn self-defense. Why? Well, because you're scared to death. You're pissing in yourself. You took 4 shits before the tournament. That's awesome. That learning to deal with those emotions and that anxiety and that fear, that's going to make you a better everything, father, husband, business owner, or whatever. And so the tenets you go through in martial arts are great. But for beginners, I tell them this, look, if you want to go to some beginner classes for 30 days or 45 days, whatever, do what you need to do. But understand that your skill development in those first couple of days is minimal. Because if I were to put you in a classroom with 30 people that didn't speak French and 1 instructor, how long is it going to take you to learn French?
Yeah, I'm going to learn.
You're not going to be parlez-vous français and shit.
Yeah.
You're not. It's going to take, I know people who've been doing it for 4 years. They can't je m'appelle their first name. They don't know nothing.
Right.
So, but if I put you in Paris for 3 months, you're going to be speaking French, bro.
Right.
It's going to be a little uncomfortable, but the skill of French is going to happen pretty quick, much quicker. What I tell people is after the first 30 to 45 days, go to your instructor and say, are there any mixed level classes where there's, kind of beginner, intermediate, or advanced, kind of in the same classes where I can observe advanced students and how they move? Because in martial arts, you do actually learn through osmosis. And if the only people you're grappling with don't know shit, well, you're going to be emulating the strong guy, not the technically proficient guy. But if you go to practices where there are high-level people hitting pads, kicking pads, hitting the bag, you're going to start to emulate those movements. You're going to move better because the quality of what you're observing and experience is better. Is it going to be a little harder? Yep. Are you going to be a little uncomfortable? Maybe. Are you going to get better faster? 100%. So my biggest advice to beginners is, I get it. Take 30 or 45 days to get your feet wet and get comfortable. But as soon as you get there, get into some classes that are going to put some pressure on you. Get into some classes where you find a little bit of uncomfort and welcome that, embrace that, and learn to thrive and strive in that and be around people who are doing better. You don't want to join a business group of a bunch of broke business owners. You want to join a business group of guys who are doing better than you ever were, who the things that come out of their mouth are very different than a person that doesn't know anything about business. And it's the same with combat sports, with wrestling and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. If you can be around a bunch of guys who are really good, you're going to eventually start to get really good through osmosis. Are you going to learn better stuff? Sure. Are they going to teach better techniques? Sure. But that's not the only thing that makes you better. The association with competent individuals lifts the other ships in the lagoon. So focus on getting in some classes that make you a little uncomfortable, putting a little pressure on yourself, and getting comfortable being a little bit uncomfortable, pushing your skill level, pushing your cardio, maybe doing a little sparring, moving around a little bit. I got touched up a little bit. I'm not dead. I'm okay. You're going to get a lot better, a lot faster like that than staying in a beginner class for 2 years. Man, you're never going to get where you want to go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely think that's a solid message. You definitely have to just, work hard and put that work ethic in, like you mentioned earlier in the interview as well, too. And, Tim, with everything we've been talking, this has been an awesome interview. I really, really appreciate talking to you. And, with that being said, what's the final message out there for anybody that's going to be watching this video?
Get in a gym, man. Get in a gym, any gym. Get in a martial arts school. Like, think about it, dude. The world is not getting safer. Are you paying attention? The world is crazy. Listen, I'm a 46-year-old 4th degree black belt who fought in the UFC. Dude, I'm in the gym 2, 3, 4 times a week. When I'm in Biloxi, I go to gyms that aren't even my gym, like just to hit pads, move around, stay. Like, how could you not? Like, today it's a crazy, the society's getting crazier.
Literally.
Martial arts is kind of like swimming, Oh yeah. How could you not know how to swim? 80% of our planet is water. There's a good chance you're going to fall in some water at some point in your life. Yeah. It's a necessary survival skill. Learning how to fight and defend yourself and grapple and kickbox and box and be comfortable in terrifying environments is a necessary skill in this day and age. If you have children or you're an adult, find a good mixed martial arts, boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, taekwondo. Find a place, a community for you to belong that you can spend a couple nights a week building yourself into something better. That's necessary in our day and age. I think it's necessary for all populations. So yeah, that's my message. Find a
I love it.
Martial arts school, get involved. And the cool thing is kind of like at the gym, like at a regular gym. Like I go work out at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know who's at the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning? A bunch of gangsters, a bunch of real dudes, a bunch of good dads, a bunch of good husbands, a bunch of people who are dedicated to improving themselves, a bunch of smart people. That's who's there. You know who's doing jujitsu at 7:30 at night? The same dudes, the same kind of guys and girls, good moms, business owners, dedicated. You know who's not? A bunch of people who smoke weed and play PlayStation all day. They're not there. But
right.
those aren't people you need to be around anyways.
Exactly.
You can find these little pockets where you can associate yourself with people who are going to help. Just like I said about being around, mixed level. That's the kind of people you want to be around. They're going to say stuff. They're going to do stuff. They're going to influence you in ways you don't understand. But being in a good martial arts school, it's a necessary thing for any kids, adults, everyone.
100%. No, I definitely agree with you, Tim. I definitely think it's been a great message and just all around, it's been great talking to you, Tim. Thank you so much for coming on the show,
I appreciate it, Kev. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I hope we can do another one in the future, man. I had a lot of fun. And yeah, thank you again, man. Hope you enjoy your day. And thanks a lot.
Anytime, brother. Be safe. Thank you.